What's going on, everybody? I hope this is recording. This will probably be my most casual video ever, I guess. Actually, well, anyway. So we're going to talk about this new research coming out of Barcelona, Spain that everyone's ignoring. And if you're on my subscription or feed or newsletter on Telegram, then you got this a while ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. And likewise on my Substack blog, I sent out notice about this at least last week, if not the week before that. But since some of you aren't on those programs or profiles or platforms, I'll review it for you here. But here's the point. Here's one point. YouTube censors so much, it's hardly even worth making any meaningful video because of the risk of getting censored, So obviously I have to use other platforms, and as it turns out, those platforms are much better. So please don't depend on YouTube for your information unless you just want filtered information. So we'll see if this gets filtered as well. So this is a recent study. I'm going to show you two things. I'm going to show you this infographic, and then I'm going to show you my analysis, which is a little more word for word. I won't read the whole thing to you because obviously you can read it if you have interest, and I'm not your babysitter, of course. So I'm not going to read it for you, but I'll at least show you some of the highlights and some of the major points. So this is a new study, again, out of Barcelona, Spain, in a hospital called Hospital del Mar, which overlooks Barceloneta Beach, which is really beautiful. So among 838 patients with severe hospitalized COVID-19, administration of vitamin D as semi-activated 25-hydroxyvitamin D reduced ICU utilization from 21% to 4.5%, and they calculated that as an 87% reduction. So you remember when all of this stupidity started last year, they said, oh, well, it's just going to be 2 weeks of lockdown to flatten the curve, right? You're supposed to flatten the curve. You're supposed to reduce the stress on the healthcare systems. Well, look, we could have reduced the stress on the healthcare systems by 87%, according to this, if we had just used the vitamin D that we already knew would be likely to provide benefit. Again, I'll point out the fact that they use 25-hydroxyvitamin D. So that's the semi-activated form, which is actually the more biologically potent form. And you, of course, know that because you've seen my other videos already. So vitamin D3 is not simply inactive, it's antagonistic. It has to get converted into 25-hydroxyvitamin D. That's what we measure in blood. It's also found in food. So it's used as a nutritional supplement as well. And that's the form that they use here. They didn't, of course, use 1,25-dihydroxyvitamin D. Massive savings in healthcare utilization and expense. Reduced mortality from 15.9% to 4.7%. They call that 79% reduction in mortality, otherwise known as death. So you can see I graphed it out here. So this is 0% to 100%. Normal mortality among these patients was 15% if they did not get vitamin D. If they did get vitamin D on the day, I think it was on the day of admission, but we should look at that again. I actually don't know if they specified it, but they may have just stated it kind of subtly, and maybe we'll look at it again. No vitamin D, 15% death. With vitamin D, 5% mortality. So let's just call it 87% and 79%. We could reasonably say it's a 80% reduction in consequences, let's say. Or we could say 70%. Or you could say 50%. You could say greater than 50%. But it's massive. So Spain should follow its own research and start using this as therapy and as prevention. Since Spain is part of the European Union, the entire European Union should be looking at this and probably taking action. Because this article was written in English, the entire Anglosphere should be taking action on this. Because English is the official language of science these days, I mean, the entire world should be taking action on this. And I don't know if anybody's taking action on it. Here's my summary. Correction of pre-existing vitamin D deficiency provides massive clinical and financial benefits in the treatment and prevention of CV-19. Multiple mechanisms of action. So don't tell me that you don't know how it works, because I'm telling you here how it works, and we all know how it works. Vitamin D strengthens barriers, it reduces viral replication, it reduces viral load and transmission, reduces excessive inflammatory response, cytokine storm, promotes immunotolerance, reduces acute lung injury and acute respiratory distress syndrome, which is what kills a lot of these patients, at least according to what gets published. Enhances immune response while promoting tolerance. That's awesome. Reduces collateral damage such as inflammation and also protects mitochondria. Safer than any drug you can think of. More affordable than any drug you can think of at $15 per year. That's actually cheaper than aspirin, I believe, but I'm not sure. It's available internationally. It's not patented. It's available in foods as a nutrient, so yeah, it is a nutrient. You can call it a hormone if you want, but that doesn't keep it from being a nutrient. Collateral benefits. Correction of vitamin D deficiency is proven to alleviate depression, anxiety, back pain, pain amplification, migraine, deficiency-induced immunosuppression, systemic inflammation. Nutritional neglect is medical malpractice. Vitamin D supplementation and assessment must become the standard of care. You can see my many publications on this topic. So if you want more information, look at my websites, inflammationmastery.com. Healthythinking.substack.com is where I'm putting all my, basically it's where I'm putting all my new information. And my Telegram channel is Dr. Alex Vasquez. So you can't simply rely on YouTube. Even though I'll try to post this on YouTube, I'll post it in other places as well. But, I mean, you can't rely on YouTube if you want to be informed. Here's another way of looking at that. So, obviously this is the same. Here's 0% to 100%. So, if we're faced with a global lockdown for 100% of this problem, what if we reduced that by 80%? So what if we had an 80% reduction in hysteria, hype, and legitimate illness? That would leave only 20% of the original problem. So we're stuck dealing with this huge pile of bullshit. And vitamin D alone, for less than $10 per patient, could prevent or treat 80% of this. That would leave us only with roughly, let's say, 20% of the original pile of bullshit. And I think we would all agree that that would be the better situation. Let me show you my analysis of this. So when you go to healthythinking.substack.com, you will see what I've provided for you. I've got the entire antiviral nutrition course online for free. I just put my diet article and video online last night. I've got other videos, of course. So we're going to click here, and I've got other things. Like I said, I'm starting to use this more and more. I've got a good analysis, I think, on leadership. But let's look at this. Deep dive research analysis and commentary. So let us take a look at this. This is the same thing I just showed you. I'll just skip around because, like I said, I'm not going to read this to you word for word. But this was published, what we just looked at was published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism. Some would argue that that is the most authoritative endocrinology journal in the world, published by the University of Oxford, which I could care less about because they obviously take a lot of corporate money. Published by the Endocrine Society, etc. So it's an official journal for those of you who need someone else to tell you what to read. This is a very large study, so you can't say this was small. You can't say, oh, it was underpowered. This is real-world evidence. I think their dosage of vitamin D was adequate. Massive reductions in consequences. That's what we want from any treatment. The authors were a little bit unclear on page 11 of the manuscript. It doesn't have any consequence. And they just repeated the stupidity of 20 nanograms per milliliter being sufficient. That's obviously completely stupid. A lot of their patients were deficient in vitamin D. The average vitamin D level in these patients was 13 nanograms per milliliter. That's devastating deficiency. And again, this is in Barcelona, Spain, which is the vacation spot, for most of Europe. So what does it tell you if a beach community is this deficient in vitamin D? This was actually done last year before the lockdowns. So it tells you that everybody here in Europe is deficient, basically. We're just at the point of stupidity here with regard to neglecting this data. And we need to not be so stupid, We need to go ahead and follow the data and take action on this. We're just stupid now. We're totally stupid. We're stupid for not taking action on this. And that's probably all I want to say. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the article since I mentioned it. Here's the manuscript of the article. Calcifidiol treatment and COVID-19 related outcomes. Let's just see when they started treatment. That's the only thing I'm going to look at here. All right, I looked at this 2 or 3 times. Couldn't really find any errors. Ethics. So they just, you can see here, let me highlight it if I can find my highlighter. These patients were enrolled at the day of admission. So that's day 0. Remember that JAMA study that I looked at? You can look at that video. It's called Vitamin D Pharmacology. In that JAMA study, they started treatment on day 11 because they're a bunch of idiots. And they wanted the treatment to fail, and so it failed. But here, they started on day 0. Like, people came into the hospital and they got treatment. Imagine that, this is so stupid, the fact that we even have to talk about these things. So, if you want the complete analysis, take a look at what I've provided here, and this will kind of walk you through the article. I didn't find anything wrong with it. If you find something wrong with it, you can leave a comment at the bottom of the page. But this is decent quality from what I could tell. Unless I don't think I missed anything. I looked at it pretty carefully. Just because it's a vitamin D study doesn't mean I want to jump on it, because sometimes they F up these studies. And if they reach a conclusion that pleases me, but they do it in a way that's stupid, I'm still going to call it stupid. I don't want to read stupid research. Take a look at this video as well. If you haven't seen it already, come on, you should have seen this already. I put it up there 10 days ago. So, anyway, that's probably all I'm going to say right now. If you're wondering what my shirt says, it says Rollins Band. This was from their End of Silence concert. This isn't the original shirt. I did have the original shirt because I did go to the concert in 1992 in Houston, Texas. But I later got rid of the shirt, and then last year I bought it again off of Amazon. It's just a cheap copy, but yeah. So anyway, try to get hip and follow my stuff on my Substack blog called Healthy Thinking. So it's healthythinking.substack.com. And then follow me on Telegram. Telegram's, I think it's awesome. It's way better than WhatsApp. And I post stuff every day, and I send out whole videos. So and sometimes partial videos. But don't rely on YouTube. It's too filtered. All right. Have a great day.